Okay, so yeah, and just having to like internalize different stigmas about how other people perceive me in dance, just kind of made me have to go about things differently. So like on top of, you know, internalizing what others were saying, I had to kind of make my own voice a little bit louder. And like self-train, and like not just in terms of physically and like my physical endurance or like pushing myself to meet or hit the standards that I wanted to meet as a dancer, but like train myself mentally to kind of like combat all the things that were essentially gonna be inevitable simply because of how I looked as a dancer.
When you got out there and did your solo, I think that's when the thing changed for your mom.
Yeah.
Do you remember when it changed for your mom?
I think around that time, because I think that was the first time like she ever got to see me dance outside of the house, outside of like African or things that we had done all of our lives, but like it was it was an instrumental from Alicia Keys, and it was just like literally all movement, no words, because it was nothing else to get lost in. And I just remember
goosebumps on
like,
that one.
I mean, like I still like remember that feeling. Like like I said, my mom has always been proud, always been supportive of the things that I've done, but that kind of pride was different. The perception that she had was different. And now like even to this day, like when I was in college, I went through a space when I transferred, and I told her, I was like, Mom, I don't think I'm gonna dance anymore when I go to Fayetteville. She's like, absolutely not. You need to figure out the program, and you need to get it together. Like it was that investment, and I think that kind of helped in my like self-healing process and my self-growth process. And it kind of, that was my turning point to really push myself to grow and train in the way I felt like I needed to be competitive in a field that was literally against me.
Yeah.
You know, so and that was interesting. And also being like dancing with Surya almost my whole life, and then like
how was that for you two? Like going, both of you coming from an African dance background to coming to me. What was the transition for you? And what did you need to change in you? Because something shifted. Both of you are striving for the next levels, the higher levels. So something clicked. But what was that journey for you?
I wanted to be. I had a desire, I think, to be multidimensional inside of various movement vocabularies, and I didn't want to remain in one. And I even to this day, I am still largely indebted to the traditional West African vocabulary and all that it's given me, and I love it. I've never negated that as my root. You know what I mean? There's a indescribable joy that happens every time I'm in a class. Period.
It's
you know
in your blood.
I mean? It is. I can't, refute that experience. But then there was, I think, having the thing about, although we rehearsed in Spirit Square, it was still clear unto me that we were still an extension of Afro-Am. And so having that village being a place that I was raised in, summer camps, Kwanzaa camps, all of these things, Mr. Baldwin, you know what I mean, that round table, having that as inside of me as well was also a part of my body. And I knew that Black performativity and who I was as a young Black girl was shaped by who raised me. And so I think that there was something outside of that traditional West African experience that was rooted in the United States that I really wanted to tap into. So that modern jazz that you're talking about really spoke to me, because that was more like local for my body to sort of dive into.
And controllable.
You know
I think that's why I like modern jazz. And I always say, okay, y'all gonna do hip hop, who's choreographing it, who's gonna do it? And it wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
Where modern jazz was something I could control in my body. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
But dancing with Ife, I started with you when I was in 5th grade. October 25th, 2005.
You
know, and I came in kind of
Right.
late.
Good
I
for
came
the
in
brain.
kind of late because y'all were already working on Slipping into Darkness, and you threw me in the center. It was Greg and Juriel and Josh and Hassan, and that was it. Because Nadia wasn't there. Nadia wasn't there, and Gina had left, and so I was like young, you know, the youngest, like 5th grade, 11 at the time, 10 or 11.
After you were in the middle, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, no. Threw me in the center with black sheets on her face.
Ready.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, this is different. This is a different vocabulary, but I liked the languaging that you used to get us to execute, to have to, I don't know, you just always had a way of like speaking life into us. But I just thought that, you know, it's good to just have your friend in the space with you. You know what I mean? Especially because we had been dancing together prior to you. It was like, oh, now we're in a different kind of space. Now we're in a different dancing space. And like, because we had gone to elementary school with like some of the other people, like Christian and stuff. And they wouldn't necessarily like believe that we were dancing together as long as we did, as long as we had. So even when they came along and saw, no, this is like an established thing.
That's right.
It was like understood. Not that we were trying to be like the clique girls in the group, but it was like, no. This is its own
Thing.
Yeah.
It's a
It has its own history. Yeah,
it has its
it's
own
true.
history.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
bringing that, you know, to the space was really important, I think, because it influenced just how us knowing that we can work with each other too. Like we had the same choreographic values. We don't necessarily believe in having to like yell or teach in like the sort of what we call an authoritarian way. We really do believe in like facilitating community. And although we may not have had that languaging at 13, those same values apply at 20.
We all.
See, don't say it. I thought about that last night. I was
At
like, I've been
24.
dancing since I was 3. I'm about to be 55 years old. Like when you say, what year were you born in? 1964?
Oh!
I'm old.
1994.
1994.
I was born in 64. Yeah,
I didn't realize
so
we were 30 years
30
apart.
years, yeah. I thought about that last night. I was like, I'm damn old. I may not feel it in spirit, but my number is saying something else. But anyway,
You only as old as you feel.
That's right.
That is it.
It was good. It's always good to dance with your friend, to have your friend in that space. You know what I mean? Because like, you know, I was the youngest, and everybody else had their sort of crew because Juriel, Jeremy, they were a thing, and I was like, you know, it's fine. And I'm used to being like the younger person in a lot of these spaces, but having my friend, you know, that I guess that following year and on was really helpful, you know.
I agree. I'll say when I came in, I wasn't really sure what I was expecting. It was just like, we found this program and we're gonna go audition for it. And like we said, like Surya said, we used to be at Afro Culture Center all the time. Family Day, Kwanzaa camps. Like our parents literally lived in
We were
Culture Center. We
raised.
grew
That's
up
right.
at the Culture Center.
Yeah.
So being able to, like at that point, I knew I was passionate about dance, but I was not being trained consistently. I had done a few years with Chris Thompson studying jazz. We had, you know, done things at the North Carolina Performing Arts Academy for a few years before they closed, and then you know, just training in African. That was the only consistent thing at that time. So by the time I came in middle school, I was like dancing in school, and
Because
I was
Dolly Dinkle studios weren't like a thing that our parents were gonna put us into.
or like even
Dolly
or
Dinkle?
could
Is that a real
afford-
person?
No, but we know
Oh,
the
okay.
competitive-
I was like, just making sure.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I hate you
our
know how I
parents
feel
weren't
about
gonna-
competitive dance. It's not even.
And then speaking of like weekly training on the body, that was the only other.
That was the only other thing. And I knew, like, for me,
Because Charlotte or North Carolina Performing Arts, I had a traumatic experience with them. I wasn't really gonna, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So
And that's the sad piece of it too.
the options were slim or just like discriminatory.
or like not within the
Even
the cultural
in
the
2005.
value system.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely, because I know, like,
Yeah.
you know, even some of the companies that were around, sometimes it wasn't always about like, okay, we don't want to send you here. Sometimes it was like, we can't afford to send you here. Like, I come from a big family, we can't. Right. You know, you the oldest. We pushing you through, but we got other responsibilities. So like being able to be a part of this program at the Cultural Center kind of brought a different kind of value to me, because it was like all the people and all the things that instilled so many values and so much of who I am into me. I'm gonna be able to be a part of a program that's gonna kind of like dispel those things to the community and be a part of a bigger picture and a broader message. So that was like dope for me. I think the scariest part for me was that audition, and surprisingly not the dance audition, but I vividly remember my theater audition for some reason. And I remember you sitting there and Omar sitting there, and I am reading this paper and I'm like trying not to shake, but like literally the paper's in my hand and it's like going, and I'm like, oh my
but that's
goodness.
part of the journey for you too. And,
Absolutely.
And for me, that the auditions weren't about you necessarily becoming an actress. It was about you having a voice and finding your voice. And theater is such a great way to do that. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. To make you outspoken, to give you volume and dynamic. You know, it makes you who you are, and that's how I grew up. And I know the blessing and the benefit of performing arts on a child. It makes you so beautifully rounded and stronger and compassionate and understand. It's a bigger thing. And I think that was one of the struggles I always had with the school system, is their lack of value for the arts. And was grateful when those schools started opening up, because it's important. I have no regrets ever in my life about anything that I've done in theater and dance. Absolutely. I am the being that I am. You know what I mean? And it gave me the backbone that I needed to be myself, love myself, honor myself, be a benefit to the community. I grew up in a community center. You know what I mean? And when you grow up in a community center, you're about community. Absolutely. You're about the village. Absolutely. When you don't have that, you don't understand the importance of, which is why I love that when I wrote the letter for Ife to get into school, I didn't know what she was doing. I didn't know the detail of what you're striving for. But then when I spoke to everything that she said, this is everything that I'm doing. I said, is it? She's like, yeah. Because I bought in that we need these people to go out into the world and bring back the tools to the community. Absolutely. You know what I mean? It may not be the university community, whatever it is, to have more of you out there. Absolutely. You know, it excites me that you guys wanted to go to school for dance. You know, I remember when Hassan and Juriel were trying to get into So You Think You Can Dance. I was like, why are you doing that? This is So You Think You Can Dance. I said, but you already know you can dance. You don't need them. All you need to do is get together, choreograph a show, and take it on the road. That's all you need. Absolutely. Why are you doing that? It's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of energy.
And your talent, because they are so talented.
Yeah, and truthfully, at that time, neither of them had the look, and I knew that. I mean, they don't have that look. Yeah. So who are you doing that for? Or, you know, I said, I don't want you to not have an experience, but you don't need them to validate you. I'm just saying.
It's the validation.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need that. You all have skills enough, and I know I gave you the skills and the passion. That's the key. Yeah, the passion. You don't get the passion anywhere. You know what I mean? To tell stories through your body. Absolutely. And that's why I emphasize that, because this is history. You know what I mean? Dance and theater and all of those things, this is our history. And so you are part of that history, and that's how I taught. But you're not going to get passion from those competition schools. At all. You know, and those schools that they're just teaching dance. They're not teaching social mindset. They're not teaching any of that heart stuff.
That brings the dance to life.
Absolutely.
That brings it to life.
Absolutely. I will never forget the piece, you guys, when we did the Katrina piece.
The levees are breaking.
Okay, so there was the exhibit.
That was a Juriel's piece?
No, I'm thinking about the one. Remember, we did the exhibit. They had the Katrina exhibit downstairs, and the theater students went downstairs and looked and had to tell a story about one of the pictures that struck out to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then I choreographed. You guys may not have been there. I choreographed the storm, and they dismantled the stage.
The stage. We were there,
and it was just rain. It was
just a rain, and then it got faster and heavier. I remember.
It was that. All I had was an audio track of rain and a storm, and we had that paper. Yeah,
the paper.
That was the waves, and it was crashing. That thing, and people, when you all finished that and the storm settled down, I looked at the audience. They were like, and the exploratory one, I was like, I just need y'all to see this. This is not a dance. It's not anything. This is something that we explore in school when you all did the water.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God!
I don't even remember how that
my
piece
favorite
nested.
time. That was probably, but that was coming from me diving deeper into locomotor skills.
Okay.
Just taking you all back to the basics because I was teaching preschool.
Right.
And I was like, I just want you all to lay on the floor. And I said, you are water. I said, right now the water is still. I narrated it, and you guys just started. It was magic. And when you all finished, I said, now let's take that water upstage. And you all found your way. And I'm watching. I'm standing there like this, geeked. The audience is like. I said, that's what I want. That's how you should always leave the audience, like this.
I remember.
And they were like, wow! I was like, yeah, right? You all were magic to me. So I was like, and that was the other thing, and just being able to, you all received me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's the difference too.
Yeah.
The teachers that say, well, you're not going to be able to do ballet because your behind's too big. Okay, white person, because that's clearly coming from you. No, nobody brown is going to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so having to battle those challenges, it's not about validation there, but it's they're trying to destroy you. And I'm not with that. Right. You know what I mean? And I know it's out there. They told Debbie Allen at the School of the Arts in where is it? North Carolina, School of the Arts.
In Durham?
Told Anita Baker she'd never sing, and told Debbie Allen she couldn't dance. Okay? So,
come on, Anita.
So it's all of those things that we have to stop feeding into that. Mm-hmm. I don't need you to validate this is me. Dance is me.
Absolutely.
Dance is my fiber, my bone structure, the music.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you come up in African dance, it changes your DNA.
It does.
And when those drums go,
you start going.
The people that are moving, I'm like, mystified. I'm mystified. Because how do you not move to a real live drum, even recorded drum? As soon as you get it,
you hit that bounce.
Yeah. And they wanted to do a fifth surgery on me, and they were like, it's like, to do what? They were like, oh, a spinal fusion. I was like, you mean my hips ain't gonna be able to sway? No, we ain't doing that. I was like, is that why I'm here? They're like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's not gonna happen. All right, see you later.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not fusing. I said, I said, I'm a dancer. And I kept saying, I'm a dancer. I said, my hips got to be able to swing. Are they going to be able to swing? And the doctor's like, ma'am.
No. I can see you in the chair in there like.
I was
swinging
it. Yeah, I need to be able to do this.
I can't do it.
Yeah. And he's like,
no. Never mind.
Yeah.
Go home.
It's like, I didn't know that's what I thought this was just a follow-up. I didn't know you were trying to do another surgery. And they were like, yeah, we want to do a spinal fusion. I said, we're over. Thank you very much.
That's a lot.
I said, I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? I'll figure out what I have to do. And even that motion, I can still feel, and it's really, tight, but I have that freedom. And I'll sit sometimes, and this is all I'll do. Because this is about as close as I'm going to get to some of those things that I miss.
You did in Nashville.
I did. And that's coming, so it was awesome.
Absolutely. I think also in terms of validation, like being able, I know for me, coming to wow. Yes, thank you, AACC. Let me reiterate.
But nobody's gonna know what that is now anyway.
Right.
The cultural center.
Right.
It's that name is gone.
Right. It's gone. But getting to see a dancer for like the first time in my life that looked closer to what I look like. I think that for me, because I always had the passion, I always knew I wanted to dance. And I think the first time I saw you dance, I was like, oh hell yeah, I can do this shit. It clicked. And like, not even with it being like validation, but like being representation. And for me, seeing something that I had never seen before. All of my dance teachers had been thin. All of them had been like, or athletically built, had this thin stature. And you know, I'm like, I'm built like my daddy. And that, you know, it is what it is. I'm built like my daddy. I look like my daddy. And like we were saying earlier, the first time I saw you dance, I think you were doing a jazz piece or doing something. It was like water. It was like the fluidity of it and how your body moved, like you were like air. And I like watched and I was in awe and I was like, oh my God, I want to move like that. And this person looks like me. So I know I can move like that. It's just a process of how to get there. And like you said, receiving teachers, and you know, it's a two-way street. And I'm learning this as I'm in my teaching journey. I think sometimes as teachers we go in and we kind of, because we have this authoritative space, we expect students to kind of buy into us because we are who we are. But for a student to be able to receive a teacher is a high level of trust. And you know, just you being a representation of everything that I was at that point and everything that I aspired to be, and like constantly pushing me, not letting me sell myself short, not letting me, you know, wallow in like self-pity, or you know, just always being like, you are who you are and I still don't expect any less of you, in spite of and because of, like, that kind of put it all in perspective for me. And was a lot of the reason why I came back every year, because it's like I could go somewhere else. I'm dancing in school, I could just dance in school, but like, where else am I gonna go where I'm gonna get this representation of everything that I could be, you know? So
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And you don't know those things until that's part of what we were talking about with Navanja and I in this project that we want to do, is just to look back at the village of dance. Do you know what I mean? And what it brings. I've got some clips, but I would really love if anybody has any video to start pulling those things together, just so we have them on a format. I don't remember who did stuff like that, but I think this is, I put that in the letter, that she comes from a community that gave her, instilled in her foundation, and it needs to be expanded. And the other piece is just, I want you to have experiences, and this school can make them happen for you in a way that I couldn't. I don't have any money to give to you to send you to Africa. Do you know what I mean? Or to say, oh, all of a sudden now I want to add some of the dynamics of Indian dance to this, and what does that mean? I need to, you know, firsthand go.
Absolutely.
That school should be able to do that for you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And give you experience. The same with your schools. Your school's got some great international exchange stuff. You know? So I think those are important, and the community can't always do that. We'd have to have a fundraiser, and people would want to bake. You know, that's not how you get people out there, but, you know, grassroots, that's where it starts. So, but this, you guys become this beacon for other young people to aspire to, and they can say, you're going to be Miss Surya and Miss Ife soon, too.
Absolutely. It is what, like, the journey, it's such a...
It's never ending.
It's never ending, but like the whole teaching dynamic, like I never intended to be a teacher. And
I know!
And you know,
when
I know, me either, but it continues to fall in my lap, right?
Miss Candace,
how
could you not be teachers?
Let me tell you, because both of my parents were teachers, so I knew of all of the horror stories and the realness of this profession. And you know,
I don't have tea. I'm gonna just sit back on that one.
And
same.
I got out of school and I fought it. I did retail management. I was doing, you know, plus size apparel. I was doing all kind of stuff. Did it for a year and a half, and I was like, all right, I'm going to teach because I want to dance, and this is what I want to do. Like, I can't, but like that whole process in like finding that joy, it's a real thing. Like,
it is. It's exciting.
It's exciting.
I don't know that when I was dancing to mostly just, to stay out of trouble.
Right.
I was like in all white schools. I was in busing in the 60s and 70s. So I'm, all white environment all day long. So for my parents, like, yeah, you have to do this because you're setting the standard.
Absolutely.
And piloting this program. But we also need you to remember, because like when our dad came home, it's like, so when do I get allowance? You're like, don't be fooled. You ain't that.
You go with
you ain't that. You gonna have a job before you get an allowance. So don't be fooled. So they would ground me, and dance grounded me. But then that also, I remember Frank put me on my first train and my first plane all in one day. And I was like, oh my goodness, is this what it is? Flying back and forth from New York to Connecticut to dance with my teacher. You know what I mean? I was like, this is exciting, and then that gives you, and that's what you just plant the seed of desire.
Absolutely.
And that's why when you guys say you didn't think you were going to teach, I was like, you were the best teachers, though. Think about that. Think about me making you teach and choreograph your final exit. What think about that.
Yeah.
What did it feel like for you?
It felt like a task that needed to be completed. Like I knew that it was coming, so I just wanted to refute any sort of tension. You know what? If I don't do this, it's gonna be. You know what I mean? I don't.
So you didn't do it joyously?
No.
Wow. No, did you?
Or I thought I was slick and worked collaboratively rather than this is the step. It's like, okay, I'm going to work with Ife because I know if I work with Ife, I'm not going to
input some
ideas.
It always ended up like that.
That's what it was.
But that's good too, right?
That's what it was.
Because some people don't know how to work with other people.
And then my senior exit was improvised. So, what's going on?
Why I can see you though, like, okay, I'm just gonna
put this song and I'm
gonna
just
do it.
And I'll be like, that's not what she did yesterday.
Okay.
That's not last night's show.
Okay. So I found ways to go around it.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. That's note.
Yeah.
And you?
I think for me, I actually enjoyed the process because I was scared at first. Only because there's like a level of like rawness to it, like nakedness, for lack of better words. And I think at that period of my life, I was very afraid to be like seen.
And you had to be seen because you were right up front teaching.
Yeah. And I think that you knew that because of the personal conversations.
Did a big work when you first choreographed, like the whole cast was in your first.
Because it was always what I wanted to do. I could always see it in my head. I would hear songs and I would see full scale performances and everything. But like, and I was just in a period of my life where I was just I was sure of who I was, but I was having a lot of like anxiety about who I was and what I looked like and everything else. And with the dance company being my safe haven, and not really like talking to my parents about a lot of this, I would come and I would talk to you. And I feel like in that space, you would put me in certain situations to kind of combat everything that I was telling you so I wouldn't be internalizing it.
And getting in your own way.
And getting in my own way because it was a very rough like stage for me, like emotionally. And I was hiding. I found myself hiding from the world.
Yep.
And when you made, which like in my audition when I was shaking, like that was the first time I'm like, it's just me by myself and these two people are staring at me, waiting on me to say something. Like I cannot hide. I'm not like, I'm here and this is, what it is. And choreographing that piece and putting together like what I wanted to look like and how I wanted to feel and, trying to tell the story and all those things that you had instilled in us. It was just like, oh shit, like it was like that's how like, oh, okay, so this is whatever I want it to be.
That's right.
And whatever I feel right now, however I feel right now, whatever's going on in my life, whatever story I want to tell, it's mine to do that, and I can do it in the way that I want to do it, in a way that's going to make sense, in a way that's going to relate to everybody on a different level. So I really enjoyed that process, and I find myself now using a lot of that technique in my classroom. Like even the water activity, when we're talking about space, and we're talking about when I'm teaching personal and general space to my kids, I'll turn on a song, Lay on the Floor, and I'll narrate. How do you utilize your space? How do you make it work? And like those were things that I got to develop and got to feel in that moment. Like the things that I want to teach, the things that I want to present, the things that I want to put on stage, or the things that I like, even if it doesn't go further than a vision in my head, they're of importance, and they're worthy, and they're important enough to be seen and received. You know, it's not just mess or clatter in your head. Like, and that process for me was like, again, I had a lot of turning points, so I think that was another like a stepping stone in terms of moving towards where I needed to be, you know, not just professionally as a dancer, but like also personally, and who I needed to be in order to do the things that I need to do within this field. So I wasn't going to improv, but yeah.
I think it's a shedding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like as you're talking, I'm thinking Black Butterfly.
Yeah. One of my favorite songs.
You know, that the journey is evolution.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And so it's my responsibility when you come to me to help you evolve as a dancer, but more as a human being, and a community human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Frank, there were no divas, and so that again, you know, there's no divas and there's no stage moms.
Absolutely.
You know, and so nipping that whole energy is important to character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Frank was about, in his own way, without even saying the word, he was character building, and it comes from, honestly, you know, it comes to me honestly because of that. My father, you know, ran the community center. He helped people that got out of jail find homes, find jobs. That was his thing, building character in these men. My mom was a music teacher, helping them find their voice again. You know what I mean? I come from that whole background, as you guys, you have, you know, strong parents and parenting and
involved in artistic parents too, so they understand that.
Yeah, and so I think it's there's not enough of that. I think that's why the world is where it is right now. You know what I mean? And I think that there's not the programming that we have. Do you know what I mean? That helps make that difference, because they're not going to get it in school.
Right.
You know, there's this is what you're doing at 8, this is what you're doing at 9, this is what you're doing at 10, this is what time is your lunch, you only get a half an hour, you better have your money. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not, there's no, you know, the fact that you can't hug.
Yeah.
That, I don't know anything other than that. That's how we always greet each other.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's upbringing. You know, we did this party at the Vineyard, 330 people came. And security knew that's the number. They had huge security, and the guy's like, "Why are we here?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Everybody's hugging and kissing." That's how we are. It's how he's always been. You know, when you're in that heart space and you grow up with heart, you understand that, and you bring that into the world. You know, and that's a vibration. I've been doing some writing on that last night. It's a vibration. Peace is a vibration. Love is a vibration, and you bring that to what you do, and it radiates.
Absolutely.
And when I watched you guys, it was like, it's not magic, because you worked hard, but I was like, these are my babies. Look at, you know, doing their thing. And so when I watch you guys out in the world, you know, it makes me proud, because you're the babies I didn't have. You know what I mean? And so that's my mark. You guys are part of my mark in the world, and it's all heart and mind, not all heart, mind. You guys have great minds. You know what I mean? And your spirits are good, and your drive, all of that stuff for me is part of my legacy too. Do you know what I mean? You guys are my legacy, and you are my babies, and I want nothing but success and happiness and all of those things for you guys. And excited even more so that you all are dancing too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're not dancing, but you're going to help make dance things happen. You know what I mean? And so, and you always got my back. So just always.
Good. Those was all my questions.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah.
You can go.